Identity and humanity. Identity and the illusion of separation, a reflection on human connectedness. In a world increasingly defined by fragmentation and factionalism, it has become common to refer to people by the groups to which they belong. Political movements, media narratives, and even well-intentioned social campaigns often frame individuals within the language of identity. Ethnic identity, sexual identity, gender identity, national identity, and more. These categorizations are meant to acknowledge difference, validate experience, and foster belonging. Yet, beneath this language lies a growing risk, the tendency to forget the deeper truth of human interconnectedness and to reduce the complex fabric of personhood into a narrow label. This essay offers a counterpoint to the common framing of identity, that identity, far from being a rigid or collective structure, is something deeply personal, subtle, and dynamic. Furthermore, the more we insist on constructing sharp boundaries between groups based on so-called identities, the more we erode the very core of what binds us as human beings. Our shared experience, our overlapping traits, and the invisible but real network of human connection that transcends any one category. Identity as self-reminder, not social code. Let us begin with a simple observation. Identity, in its purest form, is not a political slogan. It's not even a label. Identity is a form of remembrance, a way of keeping track of who we are, how we have lived, and what makes us feel like ourselves. When a child says, "My name is John, I'm 8 years old and I live in Madrid, I like football and I eat spaghetti," he is not constructing a political platform or signaling group membership. He is remembering himself, organizing memories, preferences, and circumstances into a coherent sense of personal being. This kind of identity is expressive, not prescriptive. It doesn't dictate who we must be. It simply reflects who he is right now, in his own language. In this sense, identity is like a personal photo album, intimate, incomplete, and evolving. It helps the individual orient himself in the world, but it doesn't obligate others to see him only through these pages. Yet, as society grows more obsessed with collective identities, we risk turning this quiet personal process into a public rulebook, one that insists certain traits or behaviors must accompany a label, and that all people with the same label share the same outlook, lifestyle, or cultural orientation. The fragility of group identity. Groups are useful. They can protect, empower, and give voice to people who have been ignored. But groups are also fuzzy at the edges and often overlap in ways that undermine any neat categorization. Most of what we call group identity is built around a single shared trait, such as sexual orientation, ethnicity, or gender. But people are not made of one trait. They are not Lego bricks. They are constellations of memory, emotion, belief, and biology. When we say that a group has an identity, we simply imply that all members of that group share something deeper than just that one trait. A worldview, a culture, a way of speaking, even a set of political beliefs. But this is almost never true. Being gay, for example, is not a political ideology. It's a descriptor of sexual attraction. Two gay people may have nothing else in common. One may be conservative, religious, stoic, and introverted. The other may be artistic, extroverted, and politically progressive. Do they share an identity in any meaningful sense beyond their sexual preference? Often no. And that is perfectly okay. When we stretch the concept of group identity to include traits, aesthetics, behaviors, and politics, we build a house that excludes its own residents. People within the group begin to feel policed, judged, or even exiled if they do not perform the identity in the correct way. A gay man who does not support pride marches or who dislikes the mainstream representation of queer culture may be told he is not gay enough. The identity becomes a prison, not a source of empowerment, but a new source of alienation. Connection is not categorical. The deepest flaw in the logic of rigid identity politics is that it assumes connection comes from sameness, that we bond because we are alike. But human experience tells us something far more beautiful. Connection comes not from sameness, but from resonance. Two people can be vastly different in background, identity, or belief, and yet feel an unshakable affinity. Likewise, two people who check all the same identity boxes may find themselves cold and distant. Why? Because connection is about chemistry, shared moments, mutual respect, and emotional availability, not about group membership. To believe otherwise is to reduce friendship to math. But relationships are not equations, they are art. More importantly, insisting on sharp boundaries between group identities ignores the most fundamental truth about human beings. We are interconnected, all of us, constantly. A person is never just a member of one group. We are born into multiple contexts, shaped by countless interactions, and always in motion. Categories do not contain us, they merely approximate us. The idea that we are separate, divided neatly into us and them, is not just intellectually lazy, it is morally dangerous. It erodes compassion. It makes empathy harder. It blinds us to the fact that most traits we think of as group specifics exist across all humans in some form. Joy, fear, desire, humor, loneliness, ambition. These are not group traits, they are human traits. Identity, science, and the limits of knowledge. The contemporary view that some aspects of identity are fixed while others are fluid is not arbitrary. It reflects the limits and affordance of our current knowledge. We do not define identity as fluid or static out of ideological preference, but rather because science, psychology, and empirical observation have shown us where patterns emerge and where boundaries dissolve. Sexual orientation, for instance, has long been treated as a fixed identity. A label like gay or straight meant to denote an essential aspect of a person. But in truth, even this could be deconstructed. Attraction can evolve, preferences can shift. There's no scientific proof that someone who is gay today will necessarily be gay for life. Sexual orientation, then, is not prescriptive. It is descriptive. It is a snapshot, not a life sentence. As much, we must commit ourselves to the rational and scientific deconstruction of identities wherever possible, not to destroy meaning, but to refine it, to get closer to what is essential and undividable in the human person. Every identity label should be open to revision, clarification, or dissolution in light of better evidence. We should not cling to outdated definitions out of sentiment or fear. Instead, we must have the intellectual humility to follow reason and to see identity as a process of discovery, not of dogma. The alternative, identity with humility. So what do we do with identity? Must we abandon it altogether? Not necessarily, but we must approach it with humility. We must treat identities like tools, not truth, like metaphor, not mandate. It is perfectly to say I am gay, or I am black, or I am a woman, if these labels help describe one's lived experiences. They should never be used to predict a person's behavior, values, or alliances, nor should they be weaponized to demand conformity or exclude dissent. True identity in its most life-giving form should help us remember ourselves, not forget others. And perhaps most importantly, identity should never replace humanity. We are gay or straight, black or white, left or right. We are people. And the most profound form of identity is not the kind that says, I belong to this group, but the kind that says, I belong to this world. Conclusion. The network of being. At the heart of this reflection lies a simple but urgent truth. Humanity is not a set of tribes. It's a network. We are woven together by more than history, more than biology. We are connected by the fact that we are conscious beings who suffer, love, hope, and fear. To speak constantly in the language of identity groups is to forget the forest for the trees. It is to pretend that humanity is defined by its differences, rather than by its interdependence. Yes, differences matter. They shape how we move through the world, but they do not define who we are in the deepest sense. What defines us is our capacity to recognize each other, not as members of a category, but as mirrors of the same essential human experience. We are not fragments. We are not tribes. We are not demographics. We are people, and we belong to each other.